Hello and welcome back to a New Pace podcast. I'm your host Lesley Andrew, an artist and art therapist, and today we are going to be talking to another artist, which I'm very excited to speak with. It's Leah Schofield, and welcome, Leah.
Hi. Yeah, so like you said, I'm an artist. I use lots of different mediums. I do mainly watercolour now, but I do a lot of sketching and I like mixing other mediums with it. But I also teach and tutor art as well. So I have like community spaces online, like on Facebook, with my sketching nature club that I've got on there. And yes, because I like to help other people get into the art as well, try and help people play a little bit, loosen up a bit, but also teach a bit along the way as well, making it quite fun.
Yeah. So there's a whole load of different things in there, isn't there? And like
Yeah, trying to focus on what it is difficult.
so many different things, and I think that's part of that creative process. And what I'm hearing from you is your own personal art making and your own personal passion for art
Mm.
and your desire to help other people to make more art and express themselves. And that's I suppose in a nutshell why I thought that you'd be really nice to talk with, because being an artist myself and being an art therapist and having all of that, is it this or is it that, and then bringing them together really resonates. So yeah, that feels really important.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think I know we were when we introduced ourselves to each other, I was saying how I used to be a teacher, and I think part of that never leaves you, like it's part of your personality. And I think I have so much fun and I enjoy doing art so much and I get so much out of it that I just want to show other people that as well. Like I want to bring it to other people. I know how much you can get from it, and I know like with you being an art therapist, you must, you see that in a even more deeper angle than that. But
Mm.
yeah, do you find that as well? Do you just have this? You want to give them that joy, sort of thing?
But there's a real I mean, yeah, there's a real interest in spreading the word, shall we say.
Yeah,
And I mean, I used to be an art teacher as well, and when I was doing my art teaching training, I remember the tutor said something about, but very much paraphrasing, pick a career that you can't imagine not having the things around you. So if you like with art teaching, it's kind of you're guaranteed to have kind of art materials everywhere, like
yeah,
forever.
yeah,
It's not going to be some. I don't know many artists or art teachers or art therapists that don't have art materials to hand, just or that even when they're even after like their houses, even people that are really minimal and very tidy, which I'm not, they've still got like art. They can grab like some art things straight away. So
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah, you want to have it beside you. Yeah, definitely. I that was actually my problem when I was teaching, because I was actually a primary school teacher. It's a really full on job, and I didn't have the time to do art that I wanted to, and it was like waiting until the holidays to get to do it. And that was like a real struggle for me, like not being able to. And that's sort of part of the thing I empathize with people. We live really busy lives, everything's quite hectic. And it's like helping people realize they do have the time, that they can fit it in,
mm,
is part of what I'm about as well. And when I was teaching, I read a book that was really good called Creative Thursdays, and and the whole idea, it was such a simple idea, was just that you set one day a week for doing your art, like to make
yeah,
sure you do something creative. So having that idea and just having that habit. So at first it's really hard. Like I would get home from teaching and I would just be really tired and not want to do anything. But having that thing, that one thing that you can do each week, really helps. And at first you don't want to do it. You get home, you're just really tired. You're like, oh, it's Creative Thursday. I can't be bothered to do it. But eventually you just start doing it, because every time you do it, you realize that you're enjoying it and actually you don't feel tired. and you don't feel exhausted, and actually it gives you energy doing something creative because you're doing something completely different from that you'd normally be doing, and it actually wakes you up, so I'd have like more energy that day. And that's something that I'd love to bring to people, is that creative habit, so that they can, when they feel like they don't have time, actually is there a moment they could do it. So even like in one of my groups, I had like a challenge for a month where we were doing some daily sketching, and someone said that they did their daily sketching while they were waiting for the kettle to boil. It's that sort of thing. You always have little snippets of time, and it's like making it easy for yourself to pick up that piece of paper, you know, not making it a thing where you've got to set up a large amount of equipment. Like even if you just have a pencil and a paper, you can do something, you can doodle and things, and even just doing that little bit helps. And like doing it regularly, you get better. Even if it's small snippets, it all builds up over time. And that really got me. That once I started doing that, that's when I started really getting more into the art as well.
I love
I was
that
doing that every week. Yeah.
because it's so easy. I'm coughing like crazy here.
No.
It's so easy to think, oh well, I don't have time, but
Yeah.
because you've experienced that as well, and then creating this routine to be able to sort of do a little bit at a time. So it's great. How did you first discover that you were an artist? Creativity was your thing. Was there any sort of really early parts of your life where um, you were maybe doing art and there were like pivotal moments? Do you think?
So it's it always feels like it was always something I did. Like I can't pick like an exact moment. It was just always something I always did, was do art. Like I've always, when I was a child, I was always creative and doing things. Like I was sort of child where we'd be like making a magazine or just things like that, just general creative sorts of things. And but my dad started doing art when I was young, and I think that's probably what inspired me. So he hadn't done anything, and then he just started doing it, and he just sort of self-taught himself. And I think from like watching him, and you learn, don't you, just by watching what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
And then obviously I chose it at school, at every opportunity to do art. But yeah, I think I always enjoyed doing it. But then my degree was, I didn't do it for my degree or anything. I did a computer science degree, completely different. But every
Yeah,
time I
that's
had an
so.
option to choose something that was a creative module, like more creative, like graphics or something, I would be choosing that. It was always going that way. And then when I was a teacher, when I was always the art coordinator, I always had to do always. It's one of those things that I've just always been drawn to doing. And I wouldn't say there was a particular like moment then, but there's been like moments in my art where I've suddenly sort of progressed, like where there's been like a turning point. So that Creative Thursdays was a turning point for me. And then the first time people ask you for a commission, so you're not advertising anything, and the first time people want to buy your work, that gives you that, oh, maybe this is something I could actually do. People actually do want to buy it. And then I did, because I always thought, I really wish that I had done a art degree. Like it was one of those things that I always thought, and because I became a teacher, I was like, I could have done an art degree, because I could have been, I still could have been a teacher. Like I didn't need to
Yeah.
do computer science. So what I did was I did a course in London at City Lit. I did a fine art course. So I went part-time in my teaching job, because I was just like, I just have to do it. I'm not getting to, like, this Creative Thursdays is brilliant, like it's changed everything, but I need to do more. Like I wanted more, and I wanted that bit of instruction as well, like I to take me further. Like, I wanted to develop my own style. My style felt very much influenced by my dad, but I wanted to see what my style was. So I studied fine art, which was a 2-year course. It was really good, and I worked part-time as a teacher at the same time. And that was a big like turning point for me, because that's the thing that I try and get people to do, because lots of people I find who are learning art, they want to follow a tutorial and do a perfect painting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I don't feel like you learn enough by doing that, and also because you've done that and you've done a perfect painting, you can't go back to square one and do scribbly rubbish. Which is, but as an artist, you have to do scribbly rubbish. I still do scribbly rubbish because you've got to, one, it's fun, like it's enjoyable, but also that's where you learn stuff. Like you learn what doesn't work and you learn what does work. Doing that course, we were doing lots of different mediums, and it was very much more like experiment, try things out, and it wasn't about making something look really perfect. And I am a bit of a perfectionist, and I do think it's like classic interview question, isn't it, where people say, "Oh, what's your bad quality?" And people go, "Oh, I'm a perfectionist," but I do
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
bad. I actually think it's a bad quality because I don't think it's good. It's not good for me anyway
Mm,
to be like that. Because I think you've got to make mistakes to
mm,
really make the biggest bits of sort of progress. So when I look back at my fine art, there are some things I did which aren't very good at all. But then I did some things which are like, where did that come from? You know,
yeah,
could never ever have come up with that if I hadn't done the stuff that just looks sort of, I don't know, amateur or whatever. Um, and that's my one of the things I like to try and encourage people to do is just not to worry so much and to try things out and not worry about the result of their artwork, and also the more you learn about art as well, like the theory and things, the more you can correct things as well, and you can fix mistakes. So that's kind of how I work now. I'm like more loose at the beginning, and then I'm get tighter as it goes
yeah,
along. Where I'm trying to get it to what I want it to be. Um, but you can't get there without having made all those mistakes and doing all those experiments and playing and stuff before, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, so that's like part of my thing. I'm always trying to encourage people to don't worry about the result. Or
yeah.
that bit's really good though. And that sort of thing. Yeah, so that was a really big sort of turning point for me doing that course.
Yeah. And
And then I've
I'm
just
really pleased that you were able to do that because so many people have jobs that they are in and it's maybe only able to spend a small amount of time on their hobbies and
mm,
their passions. And
yeah,
then they get to retirement and that's when they maybe spend more time and maybe look back and think, I wish I'd have done more of that.
yeah,
So,
yes,
um,
definitely.
one of the things that you're talking about is about kind of I suppose playing and experimentation and that idea of making mistakes and also learning through allowing yourself to make mistakes and allowing yourself
Yeah,
to maybe be a bit scribbly and a bit messy on purpose. And is
yeah,
that what you mean?
yeah.
What sort of things would people do to do that?
So I so with watercolors, that is a very much you build things up gradually. So there's often like it's quite ugly for a while. You gotta
Right.
like believe it's gonna be fine. But also I like using other things like unexpected things, household materials and things. So like using cling film to get textures.
Mm.
Um, yeah, things like that. So you can start like that. You can just start with like paint, put cling film on it, and then once that dries, you take it off and you get like a texture. So that's how this painting started.
Yeah.
So
Oh, a lovely
so all
landscape.
these textures, I didn't. That was just from the cling film, but I'd spread cling film across all these bits where you've got like the whites and stuff. That's the texture from the cling film, and then I've just worked on top of it, and I've just
Mm.
tried to make it better. Like I added the tree in. I've added some little things. These I thought looked like rocks, so I've kind of added a bit of a shadow under them.
Yeah.
Sort of used that initial loose texture. I could never have come up with that without starting in that way, just without
Mm.
worrying what it was going to look like. Just getting something on there, and then I've used that to inspire. So this is like imaginary. This scene does not exist in real
I was
life.
going to ask that.
Yeah. So it's just obviously using what I know about art, like knowing about things fading out into the distance, how color works, and things like that. So there is a bit of structure to it, but then there's the haphazard bit of the cling film where it's just doing its own thing, and then I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with that now, sort of thing. And it's not worrying, is it actually going to turn out into a good painting? I'm just having fun, I'm not playing with it. And then the later stage is, how can I make this a painting?
Yeah.
But at the beginning, I'm just like, "Ugh," and it's fun. It's just having fun with it. Yeah, I mean, how do you approach your paintings? Because you have abstract elements to yours, don't you, as well?
I can really resonate to what you said about, starting off messy and then refine.
Yeah,
So I often start a painting with so if I was to rewind, my background in terms of art making is textiles. I did a constructed textile course, and actually there were a lot of people on my course that were doing design based things, whereas I was doing individual pieces that were more perhaps more fine art based more, and I think I would have fitted in more in the sort of fine art courses. However, actually, artists, we don't tend to kind of fit a mold so much. So for a long time, I was like feeling a bit like, well, I'm not a painter, and it was like through art teaching, I was doing all that art teaching for other people to mix colours and things, and then bouncing away from that towards art therapy. That's when I was leaning more into my own paintings. So a painting that I do a lot of things in my sketchbook. I tend to do start off quite spontaneous. Sometimes
yeah,
things will change. I could think I'm going to be ending up doing something abstract, and it ends up being like a landscape with like
yeah,
layers over the top.
yeah,
Um, and certain bits that are really uncontrolled, like really splatting paint, spray paint on it as well, or then
yeah,
getting a really fine brush. Or I like acrylic paint marker pens. I love those. I'm a bit into those. So I'll
yeah.
bring in a bit of doodling into something
Ah,
as well.
yeah.
I'm not sure if there's any. Oh, so I've got little ones. There's a little one that's like a little abstract
Oh,
here,
cute.
but then
Yeah.
that compared to, I don't know how well we can see this. I'm probably gonna knock it down.
Knock everything off.
So this is the piece I'm working on at the moment.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
amazing.
it's been painted that way around.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to try putting it up while we're sat down,
No, no.
and that has been purely spontaneous gestural marks, not anything about how it looks, not anything. Actually, I'm liking how these colours are blending now that that's dried, but not so much about here's a plan, we're going to design something. And so
Yeah.
they're very different to how like your painting that you held up is. However, I know that that's not going to stay like that. I'm I really enjoy including sort of nature and landscapes and say like mountain ranges. Sometimes taken from a photograph, sometimes being more of like an imaginary landscape.
Yeah.
But because it's I'm making art for me, if somebody likes it, then they can buy it. But because it's making art for me, then I've got that freedom to take it whichever direction I like.
Yeah.
However, you spoke before about commissions, and I think
Mm.
there's a very different approach with commissions that I would hope that I'd still do something like this because there's the energy behind it is really important, and the layers
Yeah.
only happen when this spontaneity happens.
Yeah.
However, do you find yourself approaching like a commission in the same way, or do you shift how you're working?
So it depends. So I also do oil painting, which is how I started, which is what I was doing before I did my fine art course. So that is more like realism a bit more,
Mm,
and so that is more structured in how I do it. It's a different approach. So some people want oil paintings like that, and so that yeah, it's not haphazard at all. It's like really,
yeah, really.
I'll get like pet portraits and things like that, and it will be really carefully drawn out. Paint all the eyes, all that sort of thing. So it's a very different process. But I do get some commissions which are where they prefer the more freestyle. So I use something called brush show, which is a like a powdered pigment,
Mm,
and it is it is similar to watercolor, but you powder it on and it gives a slightly different effect. But you can use it with watercolors, so it's really nice. And some people really like that look, and the colors are really vibrant as well. So that would be more the same, looser style starting off. But I always think if it doesn't work out, I'll just do another one. That's more like I'm just going to keep going until. So sometimes if someone wants, I'll have done like three, and then but I only show them one.
Yeah,
I show them the one that worked, so that I can still do it in that expressive, experimental way. That one
yeah,
doesn't have to be the one sort of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'll approach it how I usually approach things. But obviously, it's inspired by photo. But a lot of my work, I do use photos. Like that one I showed you was completely imaginary, but I usually do use a photo. But I will change things like artistic license. I'll try change the composition so I think it works better and things like that. What you were talking about with doodling, some of my,
Mm.
because I do, I mean, I think people do think I have a particular style, but I feel like I do lots of different styles. I don't know. But some of them I start with doodling, like in pen straight away. So
Yeah,
I'll map out where everything's going to go with a pencil, but then all the little details, I'll have like a black pen and I'll doodle them in, and they will be like doodles, they're not like exact. So, there's one scene that I've done where it's like going off, it's at the big front, you've got all the flowers and things, and it's going off a path up to a bench, and then you've got some like trees in the distance. And at the front, especially, I'll do all the little flowers in little sort of doodling, and then I'll put the watercolor on afterwards. And I find then I can be really loose with the watercolor because I've got that sort of structure already, even though it's kind of sketchy, like it's done in a doodling sort of way. I find that it means I can be so loose when I paint, and I just build up colours and things because the drawing part's done. I'm just doing the colour part. It almost separates the two things, and I can still be loose.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I find I do experiment with lots of different mediums and styles and things like that,
Mm.
and that's really what I enjoy doing. I like it if I don't know what it's going to look like at the end. Like that's
Mm.
really
Yeah,
really fun
yeah,
for me.
yeah.
I've done it. I did a drawing a while ago, and it was this gorgeous photo of some cats, and I drew them out, and then I never painted it because I knew what it was going to look like. Because in my mind, I was going to do it really precisely, and I just never painted it in the end because I had the picture in my head already, um, that I didn't have that excitement to
Oh,
know,
yeah.
if there's a bit of jeopardy in it, I don't know what's going to happen, or I'm experimenting with something, then I've got like this bit of excitement, like what will it look like, what's that bit gonna so I know some artists like have a vision in their head, don't they, of what that picture is going to be, and they're just going from where they are now to that vision in their mind. But I don't have the vision in my mind. The vision in my mind is on the paper, like that is how it's coming about. I've not imagined it first, it's just
Yeah.
being imagined on the paper sort of thing.
So what that's making me think about is this side, maybe thinking about goals and thinking about achievement and thinking
Mm,
about the purpose of making the art. And yeah, it's interesting about like if you already know what it looks like, what's the point of doing it? And that's
yeah.
such a it's such a profound statement. It's maybe not quite as clear as that, but that thing of just thinking about art history and how, things like the abstract portraits came about, and there was a shift because photography existed, so
Mm,
there was less of a need for perfectly drawn portraits, and like butchering all art history here, but that idea of doing something that's spontaneous and imaginative and experimental, where you maybe I would hold a curiosity about how it's going to be. There's a joy in not knowing and then it merging, compared to having a plan and going through it. So, like, is that a personality thing, or is it like about style? Is it about like you said about perfectionism? Is it that
mm.
having that it's going to look like this? This is how I'm planning, and it does, and I'm happy with that. What do you think that's about for people or for you?
Yeah, and for me, I think it's trying to let go of that perfectionism.
Okay.
So the fact that there are things that are out of my control mean I can't control it. So I've just got to let it go. And then I
Yeah.
really can enjoy that process. Yeah, I mean, like if I'm doing a commission, there'll always be, because that you can't do that. It's got to look like what you want it to look like at the end. It does.
Yeah,
It's got
that's
to
what I'm
look
thinking.
like the pet. It's got to look like their pet animal. It has to
Yeah.
have their character. There'll always I'm usually enjoy it most of the way through, but there's always a point at which I'm like, oh no, it's not working. And I have it every single time. And every single time I say to myself, but it always works out. I always, but it doesn't matter that I know that it will work out and that I'll figure it out and it will work. I'm like panicked.
Yeah.
It's like panicking, stressed. There's always a little bit of time every time I do a commission where that happens, where I just feel really stressed like this. Whereas when I'm doing other artwork, I know it doesn't matter if it works out in the end or not. So I don't feel stressed when that's happening, when it doesn't work. I'm like, okay, it doesn't work. What can I do? And I'm fine about it. Um, and I have little tricks I do as well. Like I'll take a photo of it, and that gives you the opportunity to look at it from like a distance. They always say step back. That
Yeah.
helps you see, instead of you're looking at it like this and looking at every detail, you need to see what does it look like overall. But also I flip it, so I'll mirror image it as well, because by mirror imaging it, you see it in a new way,
Mm.
and I find that really helps as well to figure out what's wrong with it. And so I do all those things with commission, but feel stressed. But when I do it with my own, when I'm just doing what I want to do, I, I'm fine, because I'm like, oh, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. So there's like a
Yeah.
different sort of, yeah, there's no pressure with it. But then it usually does turn out anyway. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have like a thing that I do as well, that if I really don't like it, I put it in the collage pile. So I will use it for collaging, because there's always something in a painting that does look right, that has
Mm.
worked, and so then I never feel like it's like ruined. So that's another thing to like
Yeah.
psychologically get over the fact that it went wrong,
Yeah.
that
There's
I
lots of
use.
different things with that, isn't there? And as you were, you know, knowing that you help other people to make art
Mm,
and hearing all of those things that are in your mind of, doing a painting 3 times because it's commission and you want it to be just as the client wants it, just as
yeah,
that, and how it's going to be on their wall, that it's going to be predictable for them, whereas your process is
yeah,
less predictable.
yeah,
So it makes me think about how we often have this expectation that you look at an artist and go, wow, they've just done it so easily, they're just amazing, and that maybe recognize that it takes time
yeah,
and kind of appreciate that, but not necessarily realize how much um, reworking and like extra layers goes into a painting. So when you're sharing that with people, it does make me kind of offer some reassurance to people that are wanting to start out and start making something, that it is not, people aren't necessarily, to me, people aren't necessarily naturally talented. Some people can feel like that, but then it's about the passion and about the interest and about wanting to do something. Would you agree, or is it a bit different?
yeah. I think, yeah, definitely. It's the urge to be creative more than the urge to have the piece at the end, to have the finished
Yeah,
thing. I think I think as artists, we just want to do it. Just this feeling of needing to do it.
yeah. The
And
process,
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
having
emergency to
to,
make,
yeah,
so that
having
everyone,
to do that process. Yeah, definitely. I think so.
yeah, yeah, that's important, isn't it? And have there been times when you've just not known what to do, or you've not known where to start? Like, what would your,
Fortunately,
how would you get
yeah.
going then?
Fortunately, I seem to always have some. It's easier now. When I was teaching, you're obviously tired, and it's hard. I think it's always nice to have like themes that you follow and things like that. So I used to be part of like groups where they would have like a theme for the month, and so that would really help me, because then you wouldn't have that having to think about it. But now I've got a bit more time for art. I do. There's a way I have too much inspiration, if anything,
Mm.
because I'm always taking photos when I'm outside. So I've always got photos on my phone that I'm like, oh, I want to paint that. I've got more than I can possibly paint probably in my lifetime already. But and also like mediums. I think maybe a second hobby is like collecting art materials. So, it
Yeah.
will just be like, oh, I want to use that again. I want to try that. I actually haven't done a collage in a while or something. So then I'll get out the collage materials. And but I try to, because I'm so aware of how that can be like an art block for people, and because it was for me when my mind was like focused on so many other things. I do give that in all my like community groups. There's a lot of things to like prompts and things like that to help people get into it so that they're not wasting time thinking of the idea, because I think sometimes that just stops you doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like, yeah, so I just like to give that as something so that people can just get started and they're not stuck at, I don't know what to do, I don't feel inspired. They can just go
Yeah.
in straight away and just be doing it. Because sometimes
Yeah.
that's the thing that stops you, isn't it?
A lot of people struggle to know what to do, don't they, to start. That's
Yeah.
where, for me, I would be saying scribble sort of thing,
Yeah.
like that, and leaning into that experimentation. So
Ah, yeah. Whereas I would, if I'm in a stuck, I'm more like, oh, I'll find a photo that inspires me and I'll work from that then if I'm stuck.
yeah. So there's so much inspiration out there, isn't there? And I was
Mm,
thinking about sort of creating from sort of an overflow and abundance of creativity compared to maybe creating from lack, from that position of stuckness and
yeah.
getting out of that. And like when I was, in talking to you, and we were talking a little bit last week as well, it there's no kind of set formula. Everyone has different things that are helpful
Yeah.
for them, and it's
Yeah.
like working out what's going to work, what sort
Yeah.
of things will be useful in the moment as well.
Yeah. And it's the same with your process, like how you're painting and things. Nobody does it the same way. I everyone approaches it in their own unique way, and there is no right or wrong. I think people worry because there are art rules, but they're not really rules. They're just like guides that you can use to help you or not. Like you can use, say, the rule of thirds to help you think, how am I going to get this composition right? Oh, I'll put something along that third line, I'll put a tree there. But you don't have to follow that rule. Just because you don't have something in the third doesn't
Mm,
mean that painting's wrong and doesn't work. It's These are all just tools that like can help you, guide you. I think that's where sometimes people get a bit confused and worried, when you don't need to. A
mm,
painting can not follow any of the rules, and then for some reason it works. It just doesn't really work like that.
yeah. And rather than sort of getting it caught up in explaining rules and things like that, 'cause, like the rule of thirds is about kind of composition and where your eye might look.
Yeah,
There's maybe something important about how these guidelines have come from people reflecting on their art and looking back and taking a viewpoint and going, oh, actually, something that's so symmetrical, I don't like that as aesthetically, or I prefer something to be bigger at the front and then go smaller at the back, and
yeah,
actually, I just really allow people to take time to look and to experience it and notice what's going on for you in your art. And I'm really interested, and it really strikes me, Leah, about those different positions that you're in and different approaches from making something for yourself, which you have that very experimental way that feels right for you, and then making something for somebody else that's putting that request, and then supporting other people in developing their art. So
yeah.
where do you take how do you really see you in that? Where's the true you? Does it move around, or is it yeah, how do you like where do you show up the most? When are you your best
I,
self?
oh, well, I think they all kind of, I mean, it all feeds into each other. I think teaching was isn't just a job. I think like that is part of my personality. I think that's who I am. I can't help but want to help other people. So I think that is always there in even any time. If I'm doing like outdoor painting and I'm with other people and they're stuck, they're like, oh, this painting's wrong. I will be there going, giving advice. I just can't
Yeah.
help it. trying to help them with it. I find that's so helpful. I love it when other people do that to me as well, because when you're like painting on your own, it can be quite isolating, can't it? You need a bit of input from people sometimes. But also, I think when I'm doing my painting, that's when I'm kind of just like my like inner self or something. Like when you're just playing and experimenting, that's kind of like who you were when you were a child or something.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
yeah, and I think that's why I'm so like trying to let go of the perfectionism thing, because I think that's like the adult side of you coming out, like, oh, everything has to be just so, you know. But you've got to, it's, I just think it's really good for you to sort of let go of stuff. So I think they all combine together. I mean, I think the reason I taught primary school is maybe I always like the child, the child aspect of myself, get on, well with children and stuff, because I think
Yeah.
there's like a nice sort of a way that they play and they experience the world of curiosity and stuff. And I don't think I've really lost that curiosity. Like, I think I still look at things like that. Like, I'm still like, look out the window and go, oh, look at the moon today, or something.
Yeah.
I still find all those things exciting. So yeah, I think they're all me really. And the perfectionist part, as much as I like want to leave it behind, that is part of who I am as well. So, doing the commissions and things and wanting to do something really good that someone will really love, that's I think they balance each other. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they do. They do really balance, and saying about sort of the child part of you and the sort of adult part of you, and then coming together with curiosity to be able to strive for something of high quality whilst
Yeah.
also being playful and fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the balance, isn't it? That's kind of what you want, but it's hard to achieve sometimes, especially when you've got pressures and, if you've got time pressures or you're busy, you maybe just want to get the good result. But I think more the most important thing with art is that process and what you're getting out of the creativity than necessarily the end result most of the time. I don't know if you feel like that with your art.
Yeah, it's very much about, I know, like, if I've not made art for, I don't know, even like a good couple of weeks, my mood is just not great at all. I
Yeah,
notice the difference, and I could just do something for 10 minutes and I feel much lighter and more energized. And like,
yeah,
there's times when I go up to my art studio upstairs and I'm like, might work on a canvas. It doesn't necessarily need to be like something that's really resolved. And then
yeah,
there's times when I might sit on my sofa and have a little sketchbook or a little piece of paper, and it just depends on my energy levels and what I need in that
yeah.
moment, really. So, yeah, there's lots of possibilities, but yeah, I can't imagine not having art in my life. It's just always been
No,
there. So, yeah.
no, same. Yeah, yeah, the same thing. It's just like this. Every time I've not been able to do it for any reason, it's just like this urge is always there. Like, oh, I need to do the art.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's that creative urge, and it's letting it out to play. Because I'd
yeah,
imagine that there's lots of people listening. If you're listening to this and thinking, actually, I really want to paint, but I'm not sure where to start. I really want to do it. Allow
yeah,
yourself to kind of just play, experiment, grab some paint and splodge it on the paper if you need to. Get yourself your
yeah,
brushes out and like different materials. And there's so much advice out there about techniques, isn't
yeah,
there? But
yeah,
I think that can be a bit overwhelming. But like
yeah,
I was just thinking about like your support that you give, and you've got a membership, haven't you? And so where would
yeah,
people be able to sort of find you and get involved with that if they
yeah.
wanted to?
So I've got a Patreon, and I've also got a Facebook group. My group is called Sketching and Painting Nature Club. So if you find me on there, then you'll probably find everything else. I do have a link tree, which is linktr.ee/Leah Schofield art, and all my links are on there, so you can find all things. But I'm on Facebook, yeah.
Yeah,
There's lots of ways you can kind of, yeah, join in.
yeah. And we'll
Um,
share those links in the description as
oh,
well.
super, brilliant, yeah.
So if you had sort of final words, really, if you had
Mm.
something that you wanted to share with anybody that's maybe interested in art or questioning or curious about like either buying some art for their home or making some art for themselves, what would you say? Is there like
Yeah.
a thing?
So yeah, I mean, I think it was really good what you were saying for doing art, just to do it, like just to do it, like is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I do like a challenge every year in October where people do daily sketching challenge, and everybody is like all different abilities, and we get complete beginners there, and they just sketch every day, and they're amazed at what they can do and how much better they get just from doing it every day. So I think you just got to do it, you know, and make it easy for yourself. Just use a pencil and piece of paper to start with. If you enjoy that, then you could maybe buy other things, but you know, don't get caught up in having the best equipment. That doesn't matter. Just you've just got to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, art wise, like having people who want to purchase art and things like that, I think it's really nice to, and this is what I find a lot, people get to sort of know the artist. So lots of people sort of get to know me, and I think it means more when you can kind of get to know, follow someone's journey a little bit,
Yeah.
see where they're coming from with their art and things like that. I think it's a nice way, you know, because then it means something because you know that person as well. So I always think, because I try to buy from artists as well. Like I love jewelry, like I love necklaces and things, and I always buy from an artist usually rather than getting it in the shop. I just think it's something special about it. If and it's like one of a kind, or you know, no one's going to have that same thing as you. I think that's the sort of special thing about it. So I would definitely, yeah, obviously I would encourage people to buy art, but I think, but it supports the artists, and if we don't support artists in what they're doing, it people can't do it. Unfortunately, the sad thing is, it's you do need to make a living, don't you, to be able to do the art, and I think it's something like people value it, but unfortunately you have to value it by paying for it as well, which is really sad. But you have to, otherwise we can't actually do what we do. So yeah, so I think, you know, if you do value that sort of thing and you can support someone, that's like a really really great thing, because I think it just makes the world more beautiful, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of my mission to make the world a more creative place and to
Yeah,
raise that profile of the arts, really, as well as
yeah,
people's well-being. And of course,
yeah,
like if there will be times when when somebody sees a piece of art and then just goes, I need that in my room. I need
yeah,
that in on my wall. And there'll be
yeah,
times when they like the style but not that particular piece of art. So that's where commissions come in, isn't it? And
yeah,
that's where,
exactly.
leaning towards something that's much more personal.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Brilliant. So thank you so much for coming on and taking time to talk with me. It's really
yeah.
nice to see your art and hear about your process and some of those ideas. And yeah, look forward to speaking to you soon. And thank you if you've listened to this podcast and you're inspired to make something or like find some art to purchase for your own collection at home, then reach out to Leah. I sell art as well, so if you like my art and you
Yeah.
prefer mine to Leah's, then do whatever. Like it's a personal choice. So thank you for listening. See you again on another show. Cheerio. Thanks again, Leah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Leslie. Bye.